Hi, I'm Lindsey Schroeder.
And I'm Hagan Gorman.
And this is Conversations about conversations that people don't want to have conversations about. Today, Hagan and I will be discussing the very controversial issue of whether overpopulation is a significant threat to humanity or not.
Well, Linz, I'm just going to start off with some facts right here and talk about resources. So many people who think overpopulation is a big issue believe that we will run out of resources. But actually, there are enough resources to feed the world. It is just not accessible to everyone. So what we should be focused on is how to gain access to this food and resources and not worrying about when we will run out of resources. And also, we can preserve the resources we have now by fixing our energy sources to, say, renewable sources like solar, wind, and nuclear.
I agree with your point, and that we should be fixing our energy sources to renewable ones. But at this pace, there's simply not enough resources for the human population, especially if it is expected to grow more than 2 billion by the year 2050. Additionally, unsustainable human population growth are overwhelming the efforts to use renewable energy sources, which means that we not only need smaller footprints but fewer feet, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh.
And on top of that, nuclear plants take a long time to build. Business and factory owners would also struggle because they are lacking the resources that fuel their businesses. And even if we were to switch now, it would take a lot of time to produce all that energy, and by then the population would be suffering in the process anyway.
I understand all of these issues are serious, but I honestly think that overpopulation is a little bit dramatic and highly exaggerated. According to the International Institute of Applied Systems, the population will actually only be half of what it is now by 2200. And only 1/7 by 2300. So this actually does give the population enough time to convert to these renewable resources and be able to see the benefits of it.
So basically what you're saying is that climate change is over-exaggerated, because I have to disagree with that. We clearly see effects of climate change happening in our world today. And also, on top of that, it also brings up other issues like, I guess, deforestation, air pollution, clean water, and also waste management.
All right, relax. I've got something to say to that. So honestly, our daily actions are what's responsible for climate change and all of these problems that you listed before. It's not just overpopulation. The three main ways that humans impact the earth is our population, our consumption, and how we produce what we consume.
You just said the three ways that...
Yeah, but
you said our
can
population.
You just let me finish?
Yeah, but I'm just going to point out that you said our population.
But really, let me just hit you with what I got next. These three elements we can either choose to let these elements ruin our world, or it can actually help us with all of these problems. If we change the way we produce and the way humans consume, all the problems you listed before, like global warming, can be slowed down, and yeah.
Yeah, but you see, we can't, like I said before, we can't even possibly get the whole population to even somewhat all switch to renewable energy sources and start to slow down our carbon footprint. And additionally, if the population continues to increase, it would make it that much harder to get everyone on the same track. Now, I don't mean to go off track here, but clearly we've over-discussed this topic of overusing our resources. So I'm going to just bring up another fact about the lack of fresh water our world has, in addition to the amount of people who are starving each day. There are a significant amount of countries struggling with malnourishment. And if the population continues to rise, those numbers are only profound to get bigger.
Well, actually, these problems can be fixed, or not fixed, but just helped through the use of technology. So the quote-unquote more developed countries like the United States and everything can help these quote-unquote underdeveloped countries with all of these problems. And the fresh water, I do believe that there will be technology to be able to find ways to get more access to fresh water and possibly convert salt water into fresh water. I know that's not a set fact, but I do believe with how bright our population is, we will be able to help these nations, and that won't have to be one of our main concerns about starvation in other
Indeed, there is some sort of technology that could most likely convert salt water into fresh water, but you have to recognize the costs that come along with that and how willing people are to contribute to those costs, because if you think about it, we can notice a pattern with level 4 countries and see that I doubt that any maintaining cost of technology that will help create fresh water, because like they have fresh water, they're not at any lack, so they're fine. Like how else would we get these costs then?
What I'm just hearing is you're just being very pessimistic and saying that since the level 4 countries are fine and don't have to worry about this, that we should just give up and let the other countries just suffer from the increase in population and the lack of resources. But like I mentioned throughout this whole time, there are a lot of there are a lot of positives and ways to prevent these issues from getting worse instead of just throwing in the towel.
And I'm not saying that level 4 countries should just give up. I'm just noticing the fact that clearly from past experience, level 4 countries are not as willing as people think to put their own money into doing something that they're already set with, if that makes sense. So call me pessimistic or negative all you want, but I'm just stating facts that a part of the world population need to recognize in regard to overpopulation.
So what I can tell you for a fact, Lindsey, is that the largest populated countries, China and India, are actually, their fertility rates are actually declining. In 1960.
Whoa, we're getting off.
No. You talked about the growing population. I'm just telling you how it's going to slow down. In 1960, the fertility rate in China was 6.09. And in 2015, it's already down to 1.61. And same with India. In 1960, it was 5.89. And in 2015, it was already down to 2.35%. So if these large nations are their fertility rates are decreasing, that means that their population will not increase as high as everyone thinks it will. And since we're already seeing drastic changes in those fertility rates, that should give us hope that there will be also drastic changes in the population.
But you keep talking about what might happen. You're not addressing.
I just gave you straight facts.
Yeah, I see that, but that's one country. Two.
Of
Sorry.
The most populated that everyone's concerned about.
These 2 countries you mentioned, they do definitely have decreasing fertility rates, but for other countries, it takes many years for the fertility to fall. So this is significant to the population boom in general. Rates, but there are still countries in Northern Europe and countries like Sweden and Latvia that are having increasing birth rates that are very notable. So
yes, but those countries do not pose as big of a threat as India and China would if their fertility rates were increasing.
They're still contributing to the increase of population, so.
Yes, but it would be easier to manage those countries, so. Also, to switch tracks here, Lindsey, you're spewing a lot of negativity my way. There are actually some positives. Obviously, there is overpopulation, but some positives to the increase in population are that the more people there are in the world, the larger the labor force would be, and which would actually improve societies, not ruin it. It also, the increase of population increases the demand in many industries, and especially in capitalist nations like, say, North America, or the more people there are throughout the world, the more revenue companies can make, and it just actually would improve a lot of nations' economy, which could help them with all the problems you said before about starvation and all of that. That would just help them with their economy a lot. So
I strongly feel that the more people that are served, that the harder it will be to obtain these resources, and no booming economy, no matter how great, could help. And I'm not sure how a booming economy could help provide these resources that we're already lacking.
I haven't denied that there are issues about this at all. We're having an intellectual debate about it. I'm just saying that there are issues, but there are many, many ways to fix these issues before they get out of hand. Well, I just think before we both rip each other's heads off, that we're not going to see eye to eye on this issue, but you did.
Many people don't.
Yeah, but I did see some things from your point of view, and I hope you were able to see some things from my point of view. Well, that if you don't, then that's why people like you ruin our society. But overall, we had a good debate, and I think that
we addressed some good issues.
And I think that we could topics. So with that being said,
overpopulation is a significant threat to humanity, and we should be more concerned. So thank you very much. Have a good night. Thanks for listening.